Rewired. This is me, my life rewired.
Hi, and welcome to Life Rewired. Today I am joined by Giselle, and I met you, Giselle, and a podcasters group, a matter
Yeah.
of fact, and we were talking, and you got to tell me about your son. So I wanted you to come on today and share your story about him, how he was diagnosed with
Hodgkin's lymphoma.
Hodgkin's
Yeah.
lymphoma, and just first of all, how did all that happen? I mean,
Yeah.
did you see signs or something that said, "Ooh, this something's not right"?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, Rob, and thank you, first off. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure.
I wish I could say that I saw the signs and something. I really didn't. He was towards the end of last year. He was losing a significant amount of weight,
Mhm.
and he couldn't sleep. And it was just like he had trouble breathing. So my daughter, who is my oldest, she's 19, and she was home from college. It was the holidays, and she said, "Mom, something's not right. Just something's not right. He's really, really skinny. You should take him to the doctor." And so, we scheduled an appointment, and the pediatrician
Mhm.
looked at him and she was like, asking him a bunch of questions, did all the things. She's like, "I don't hear anything." So she said, "Let me, we're going to go ahead and ask a few questions." And so she started asking him about my dad, because my dad at the same time was going through his own health challenges that were really serious. And so
Yeah.
she thought it was anxiety, but she wanted to make sure that it was that and not anything else. So,
Right.
right. So she scheduled an EKG, because it might have been his heart and whatnot. And then
Yeah.
she also referred us to a child cardiologist. And so we did the EKG, but because it was hard for him to lay down, it was hard for them to even get good results. So he couldn't lay
Right.
down because he couldn't breathe, which is why he couldn't sleep. And so when they did the EKG, they got something, but they really couldn't get good results. So we went
Yeah.
to the cardiologist, and that was March 18th. So March 18th, we go in about 2 in the afternoon, and he does an ultrasound. And the technician, is talking to him, and they keep going over the same area. And so he looks at me, he's like, "There's nothing wrong with his heart." He said, "His heart is fine." He was like, "But he's got fluid in his lungs, and I need you to take him to CHOP immediately." And so CHOP is the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, right? So I'm in New Jersey.
Okay.
And he's like, "I need you to take him like right now. I'm going to call the ER. I'm going to make sure they know to expect you." And so now, Rob, I hate going to Philly. I hate it. I hate going to Philadelphia. So in my mind, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, is there any other way? Can I take him somewhere close by?" And, the doctor looked at me. He's like, "You could, but they're going to end up transferring him anyway. Just go
Gotcha.
take him to CHOP." And so I said, "All right, fine." This was around 3:30. We got to the hospital because there's always traffic, and it's traffic hour now, right? So we got to the
Yeah.
hospital around 5:30. And we get to the ER, and they're taking all our information. They put him in the back, and they start asking him a bunch of questions, and then they're doing tests, right? And so now we're waiting, and the hours are passing by. Mind you, I have two kids at home, so I'm like, "What is going
Yeah.
on? How do I?" And and so the 4 hours, 5 hours turned into, okay, we're gonna bring him upstairs to the ICU. So in CHOP, it's the PICU, right? It's the PICU because it's for
Yeah.
kids. So anyway, so they take him to the PICU, and I'm just sitting there like I have no idea what's going on. I'm
Yeah.
literally like, "Okay, God, like what could this be?" And the doctors, they said, "Hey, do you want us to talk in the room, or do you want us to go?" Because he's not a little kid; he's 16, so he can
Oh,
understand
yeah.
stuff, right? And I said to them, "No, it's okay. We'll talk out there first in the hallway, and then we can come in." So the doctor, the ICU doctor, she introduces the other doctor, who is an oncologist. So I'm
Oh,
like,
wow.
"Why is there an oncologist?" Right?
Hmm. Yeah. The question I'd be asking myself too. Yes.
And they said, we discovered it's a mass. And the mass, Rob, was literally from like his upper chest down to below, like right his abdomen.
Wow.
This mass was so big, it was pushing his organs to the
Ooh.
side. So it was literally pushing it. So the reason he could not breathe was because he was operating with one lung, because the other one was like, so it
Goodness.
was one lung that was doing all the work for him to be able to breathe.
Yeah.
And then they said, and then his stomach was like pushed down, so he that's why he couldn't eat. Like, he was eating very little. And this is a kid who eats. He's 16-year-old boy growing,
Yeah.
right?
What kid that age doesn't eat the
Right.
legs off the table?
Right. That everything is up for grabs, like, no food
Yeah.
left untouched, but he just could not eat the way he was eating. And it was because the mass was
Wow.
just taking up all the whole space.
Yeah.
So they said, it's a mass. They said, we know it's cancer. We just don't know what type.
Mm.
And, in that moment, it's it's what no parent wants to hear, right? Nobody wants to
Right.
hear their kid has cancer. So I'm like, okay,
Right.
processing. And then, they're like, we want to do some more tests tomorrow. We want to make sure that we know what type of cancer it is, so that we can get the treatment, right, that he needs.
Right.
So, I called his dad. We talked through the whole thing. And at this point, my son didn't know, because I really wanted to make sure we knew what it was before saying, hey, you have cancer,
Right.
right? Because my kid, like every other teenager, has access to his phone, who has access to the internet, who has access to all the
He's going to see the worst case scenario of everything. Yes.
everything, right? So I said, let's hold
Mhm.
off, right? Let's first find out what it is, and then we can tell them. And so, so the next day they did some more tests, and I want to say 2 days later is when they were able to tell us definitively that it was Hodgkin's lymphoma. So
Oh.
when the oncologist sits us down, he's like, listen, it's Hodgkin's. Here is the good news. Your son is young. He's healthy. He's 16. Most kids heal from or get cured from cancer better than adults. The results are
Right.
better, right? So, he's explaining, going through all the cell stuff, the and I'm really good about just explain it in like normal layman's terms, because I'm not a
Right.
doctor. Hey,
Right.
don't tell me any of them. Just give me what it is. And so, they did a great job, honestly, at the hospital, of explaining things, of walking us through all the options and the resources. And so he says, we have a chemo treatment. We want to start him this Friday, right? So that's Wednesday. So we want to start him this Friday. And, we're going to, oh, I'm sorry, that was Thursday, and then Friday, right? The next day. So he's like, we want to start on Friday. And, this is what he has to do. And he's giving us all everything. So I said, okay, great. He's like, yeah, he should be able to, this is what he says. He should be able to have chemo and then go home. We're going to keep him a few days to make sure everything's good. And he's going to go
Yeah.
home, and he's going to do the rest of his treatments outpatient. So I'm like, that's
Okay.
amazing, right?
Yeah.
Outpatient, great. You don't have to stay here. Awesome. So
Right.
it would have been great. Friday, he gets his chemo. We go through everything. It went really well that day. And Saturday was good. Sunday comes around, and just something was different. I walked in because I was my youngest. So I walk in and, brought him breakfast, because again, now he's like, okay, I want to, eat. So brought him breakfast, and he's just kind of like eating and staring at me. So I asked him questions like, how you feeling? He's like, I'm good. I'm okay, good. And goes off for a test, comes back. His friend comes to visit him with his mom, his high school friend with his mom. And he's like sleepy. So I'm like, are you good? You okay? And he just starts like dozing off, and he's asleep. I said, hey, your friend's here. Caleb's here. So Caleb's here. Like, he's here to see you. And he's like, all right, okay, I got it. Like, I'm like, what in the world are you? What is happening right now? Like, so I said, are you okay? And he just was asleep. I said, you know what? He's probably tired from the chemo. I don't know what this is. Let me go ahead and go home. I'm going to go home. I took my youngest, because he was with me, took him home. That was probably around 1 o'clock in the afternoon. Right around late evening, his dad calls because his dad has stayed with him in the hospital, and his dad calls and he's like, he's getting he was moved to oncology because they thought he was good with the chemo. So when his dad
Hmm.
calls, he said, "Hey, they're moving him back to the PICU." And I'm like, "Why?" He's like, "He hasn't responded. He's not. He hasn't woken up. They're trying. They're asking him questions. He won't open his eyes, and they're like, they don't know
Wow.
what it is." So that was Sunday evening, and I will tell you, Rob, to this day, I'm just like, I don't know how parents or anybody goes through this without faith, because the moment that his dad called, I'm like, put him on the phone. We're gonna pray. Like,
That's what I would have done as
right.
well.
I'm like, I don't care. I don't care if he doesn't respond. I know he can hear us. I'm like, I know he
Yeah.
can. Right. So we're praying. And I said to his dad, I'm like, keep talking to him. Like, even if he doesn't, just keep talking because I know he can hear. Like, I just
Hmm.
know, we got to keep talking to him. And so Monday comes, I go in and I'm, reading to him. Now he's in a whole, like, the room was huge in the ICU, and I'm just reading to him. He had had a seizure. So what happened
Oh,
was when he dozed off and he was sleeping that evening, that's what caused them to want to move him back to the ICU because he had a seizure and it was pretty significant. And he just was not responding.
yeah.
So now he had this, the I can't remember what it's called that they put around your head to, make sure to monitor the seizures. It's
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not going to remember what it is, but
Yeah. I won't
yeah.
either.
So he had this thing in here around his head, and then he was hooked up everywhere. And I'm just looking at my son, and he's just nothing, not responding, not moving his feet, nothing. Like, it was just nothing on Monday all day. And so, I read to him, and I kind of sat there, and I stayed for a few hours until I had to go get my other son. And it was like, I don't know. And they could not understand what it was, right? So
Hmm.
Tuesday rolls around, and I go back, we're same thing. And right in the afternoon, like as I was leaving, he kind of like moved. One of the doctors comes in and starts kind of like yelling, and like, it was this is a really interesting part, Rob, is when you are going through that, the doctors are like doing things, and I was laughing because I'm like, I could never do that, right? But they purposely do things to get reactions. So they're like yelling in his face, really loud, not screaming, but yell, like
Right.
projected their voice in loudly
Looking
in
for like
his,
some kind of a
right,
response.
looking for a response, right? Or they like, hit his elbow or his knee, like they hit the back of his the plant of his foot, right? Like they're doing these things because they're trying to get reactions.
Mm.
So in one of those things, and it's painful, like as a parent, you're like, I hate all of this. This is
Yeah. Stop beating my kid up.
right. Like, right. Like, I beat my kid up. No. But it's intentional, right? And
Right.
so, so you in the moment have to be like, just all relax. Like, it's okay. This is what's supposed to happen. It is what they're supposed
Hmm.
to do, right? You're not the doctor. And
Right.
so, um, so in one of those though, he kind of like moved his foot a little. So they were happy with, okay, there's a little bit, it's like almost like, okay, he's coming back. And now they're asking me a bunch of questions. Has he traveled? Where was he? When was the last time? What did he do? Did somebody? And I'm trying my best to remember, but in the moment, right, you're like, I don't freaking know.
Yeah. Who's going to remember all that at this
Like,
time?
I
You know, at
don't
that.
know, you know.
Yeah.
And so Wednesday, he, I come back in, and I'm, kind of just sitting there. I think his dad went to eat something, and all of a sudden he just opens his eyes. And I was like, oh my gosh. Now I will tell you, and now, hindsight is 2020, right? So you don't realize it in the moment, and you can never assume what your reaction is going to be like, right? Like, you know how people are like, oh, what would you do if, right? And you're like, well, I
Right,
think, but you
right.
don't really know. So in the moment when he opened his eyes, I don't know, my face, I think, must have scared him because I was like, oh my gosh, right? And his eyes were immediately like concerned, like, why are you acting this way?
Yeah.
And
I'm awake. Why are you
right,
looking at
like
me so
what's
funny?
wrong with you, right?
Yeah.
And so I had to, when I saw his expression, I had to bring myself down because I was like, oh my gosh, like I think I messed up.
Yeah.
so so I walked away because I had to go to the bathroom. I'm like, oh my gosh, I just could not let him see how overwhelmed I was with emotion at the fact that he had opened his eyes.
Hmm.
So going back, he kind of kept his eyes open and then he would make like kind of sounds. And so the doctors, I called them in, the nurse and the doctors came in and they're asking him, just questions and talking to him like, hey, Johan, and being loud. And so then slowly he starts kind of getting movement back, and speaking a couple of words. So it was like muffled, right? So, imagine you're a child, a
Mm.
toddler starting to speak. It was like that. It was literally
Yeah.
like starting over.
Right.
So that journey was incredible. From there, because he
Hmm.
went through that, I think in the end they chalked it up to the chemo, the type of chemo. So the
Mm.
oncologist came back saying, they thought at first it was a virus, and that wasn't it. They tested a whole bunch of stuff and they were like, it's probably the chemo. So we're going to switch the chemo. So they changed his medication, which obviously, was better. But because of that, he ended up staying 40 days in the
Oh,
hospital.
wow.
Yeah, it was
Goodness.
extensive. Yeah.
I mean, I can't imagine as a teenager having to spend 2 days in a hospital, let alone that many days.
Yeah, it was brutal. And he was sick of the food. He was like over it, annoyed. I get it.
Mm.
He was annoyed with all of it because he had to relearn stuff and they,
Yeah.
walking, moving, getting up, going to the bathroom, like all of those things. It was like we have to walk
Yeah.
you through each step, right? He had these physical therapists and occupational therapists, right, who would come in. He had a speech therapist who would come in and do all these exercises. And he just couldn't, like, he couldn't, something like, hey, say the months backwards. And he couldn't do it, right? And so
I couldn't do
I feel
that.
like I couldn't do that. And but it's like they would ask questions because there were parts of his brain that were not there yet, even though he was awake, right? Even though he was,
Hmm.
but there were parts of his brain that just were not, the cognitive part, they were not functioning like they should have.
Right.
So it was like, learning things and relearning things.
Hmm.
And then, as if that's not enough, then he gets hit with delirium, which I didn't even know was a thing. Like,
Right.
I didn't even know.
You just don't hear that people having that.
You don't. So that journey really taught me a lot. So, one, his dad tells me one day, because his dad was staying with him overnight, right? I had my son, and he's like, he woke up in the middle of the night and just started talking about these birds, and the birds were in the room and just freaking out over the birds. And so, he would be in and out of
Mm.
reality. So,
Yeah.
right. So he would be like, he knows where he is. And then, the doctor would come in and he's like, hey, you're dressed like this character on Phineas and Ferb. Like, just, it is like the weirdest, right? Or he would be like, come on,
Yeah.
let's go to Dunkin' Donuts. I'm like, we are at the hospital. Do you know where the hospital? Yeah, yeah, I know we're
Hmm.
in the hospital. I just want to go to Dunkin', and there's no Dunkin' Donuts across the street. So I'm like, well, which one would we go to? He's like, oh, the one
Hmm.
across from the church. That's where we are. I'm like, okay. So, right. So it was like just those little, and as a parent, it's like, what do you do? How do you, respond? Do you say,
Right.
do you say, no, this is where we are? Or do you say, like, what do you do? And it was just so, it was a lot. It was a lot. And that he went through
Hmm.
a lot during that season.
Yeah, they don't have a hand manual for that, and they and the doctors don't do a good enough job, in my opinion, to prepare you for the things that could happen
Yeah. Yeah.
that they deem to be normal. They see it all the time, so
Right.
they think nothing of it.
Right.
But when it's something that you're not used to and you're faced with that, you're like,
And it's
"What's
scary.
going on?"
Yeah, it's scary, right? It's scary. Like
Yeah.
when you're, he had, because of the chemo, he was losing his hair, right? So his hair was on the bed and he was like, there's all these bugs. There's all these bugs. They're everywhere. So I'm like, they're not bugs. I'm going to get them. Don't worry about it. They're not like because I don't know. So for the
Mhm.
doctors, and again, don't get me wrong, Children's Hospital of Philadelphia, they're amazing. I mean, they were really, really, they were helpful, walking us through stuff and the processes. But going through that, it was so scary. And then, they were like, oh, they were like, well, it's, most likely he's going through delirium. That happens when people overstay, they stay a large amount of time in the hospital. And because I
Mm.
had never seen anything like that, I'm like, well, dang, like I didn't know that happened. And it is scary. It's scary.
Mhm.
So,
Yeah, I think my mother kinda went through that when she was in the hospital for a long period of time. Um, long story real long story short, she should have been put on antibiotics from day 1, and they didn't do
mm,
that.
mm,
So she spent an entire week in the hospital with an infection, and she was just, like,
wow.
out of her mind. She told me, "Why did you dye your hair green?" My hair was not green.
Yeah.
And one day I came in and she told me she just had, breakfast with Ellen DeGeneres and David Letterman.
My
So,
gosh.
yeah,
Yes.
but it made sense to her.
Yes. Yes. That's exactly how it was. That's exactly
Yeah,
how it was. I mean, there it was so navigating that, and then what they said when, and here's the thing, right? It's not like there's anything to cure it. He literally has to get sleep. So the
yeah,
battle was that he was suffering delirium because he was having a lack of sleep with a long stay at the hospital, right?
yeah.
But when you are in the PICU, it is impossible to sleep because you're constantly
Beep, beep,
reading
all day long.
the beep from the machine, the nurses coming in
Uh-huh.
and out doing vitals, and I would be like, "Can y'all let him sleep?" Like what? I'm over here battling, trying to have him sleep so that he can get better, and it's not their fault. It's literally like it's just there's no way to help it. There's literally no way to
Mhm.
help it. He's got to be in the PICU because of what happened, and at the same
Yeah,
time he's got to sleep to get better. So
right.
you're met with this
It's an endless
too.
cycle.
Yeah, yeah. So so thankfully um he was he was able to sleep more. And I did say to the doctors, I said that to the doctors and the nurses. I said, listen, he's got to get better. So I need a way that he can, sleep. Y'all can do what you do, but he's got to sleep. And so, so it did work out. Thankfully, they worked with us. But I think it's important to ask questions and to kind of do the math yourself. Sometimes I
Mhm.
feel like we just go by whatever is said, and then we settle for whatever is done, if that makes sense, right?
Yep.
And I found in this journey, although they were great, that I had to make sure also to be mom, right? And to be like,
Mhm.
this is what we're gonna do, this is what we're not gonna do, this is what we need. If you are telling me XYZ, then this is what we need to do, right? And so I would ask all the
Mhm.
questions. I would be because I need to understand what my son needs.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. It's very easy for them to say, "Oh, he has to do XYZ," but
Right.
sometimes you wanna know why.
Right. Right.
You
Why?
know?
Yep. And how is that going to happen? Because that's what I said to them
Mhm.
when they walked in and they were like, it's most likely delirium. I said, okay, well, how do we help that? because there are people coming in and out of the room all the time. So how do we help that? Right. And so, and not being rude about it, but really genuinely wanting to work with the medical team, but also understand that, there's things then that need to happen if this is what we're trying to get. If we're
Hmm.
trying to get him healed, then how do we do that? Right.
Right.
Yeah. So it was interesting. It was an interesting journey. He was released April. He was discharged April 26th, I think. That was like the best day. Oh my goodness. I have no idea. I'm like, that was amazing because it had been so long,
Mm.
and he missed school. He missed the rest of his school year. Now,
Yeah,
thankfully,
you were in the hospital for what, a month and a half,
yeah,
something at that point?
yeah, yeah. So he did. He missed the
Hmm.
rest of the year. Um, but thank
Now, all this has happened in the course of just this year, correct?
yes, yeah, I know.
And you still have hair.
I yes, yes. Thank you. Yep. It's so crazy. Yeah, I know. It seems like I'm talking about something that happened years ago. It literally just like this is the never-ending year right now.
Mhm. When you spend that much time in a hospital, your days just blend together.
They do. They do.
Yeah.
They do. And I will tell you though how faithful God has been because he um because of the delirium, again, he would go in and out, right? So towards the latter part of his stay, he was moved back to oncology. They found that it was, he was getting better. The chemo was working because they, did more treatments. The chemo was working well with his body, and so they moved him to oncology. But he would kind of drift off, right? So, so one day I'm there, and his dad went to run errands. So I'm there with my youngest, and his dad calls. He's like, I have to work tonight. I can't stay with him. So I'm like, well, who's going to stay with him? Somebody has to stay with him. So now I'm going to have to find somebody to stay with my youngest because they can't stay. Siblings can't stay there. So,
Yeah.
I call around. I got somebody to watch my youngest, and I say to my middle son, I said, listen, Johan, I said, I have to go take your brother. I'm going to come right back. I need you to stay awake because that was like, I need you to stay awake. I need you to know I'm going to be back. And he's like, yeah, yeah, okay. So I'm like, Lord, please let this boy stay awake because that was not convincing. So, so, he, so he, so I took my youngest, and I'm not even kidding, Rob. I was gone for maybe an hour and a half. And I'm walking back into the hospital. And as I approach his room, all the lights are on, and there's like 5 doctors surrounding him and nurses. So I'm like, what is happening? Right surrounding his bed. And they look at me and they're like, he's not responding. We keep calling his name and he's not responding. And I was like, Lord, please, not again. Right. So
Oh,
I'm like,
wow.
hey, I'm like, don't I'm calling his name. I'm trying nothing. So I take a step back, and I hear the doctor or the oncologist say, we've called the ICU doctor. Now, to me, what I immediately gathered is they want to move my child back to ICU.
Hmm.
And I'm like, that's not happening. So because if he goes back, he stays longer. So I'm like,
Right.
hey, that is not happening. So I start praying because I'm like literally just looking at my son and I'm praying. I'm praying. They're all discussing amongst themselves, waiting for the ICU doctor. I'm praying, and I promise you, Rob, as soon as that ICU doctor stepped in the room, my son opens his eyes, sits up, and says, hello.
I love it.
I'm looking at him like, what in the world? Right. And he's like, hello. And then they're like, Johan. And he's like, hi. Like, just like, not like he was awake the whole time. Hi. Like, what's going on? And so the ICU doctor goes to him and she's asking him questions. What's your name? Who is this person? Pointing at me, right? What's her name? Who is she to you? Just, would you know where you are? And he's answering every single question on point. Then she's like testing his reflexes, everything on point. She looks at me, she's like, I don't see a reason to move him to ICU. I'm like, Lord, thank you.
Hey, God's never late. He's always right on time.
Listen, I was like, oh my God, it was the most amazing. I mean, you cannot tell me that wasn't God because they were ready. They
Mhm.
were like, we called the ICU doctor. I'm like, absolutely not. He is not going back to ICU.
Not on my watch.
Not on my watch. What is happening? So, and so from that day though, he did really well. Like they would ask him questions, the speech therapist, the occupational therapist. Now that's when he was getting tired. That's when he was like, I'm done with this. I'm over it. I want to go home.
Right, right. And I don't blame him either.
No, not at all. Not at all. But and it's interesting. What's interesting is always having a conversation about what happened after it happened. Right. So,
Mhm.
like, when they're out of the hospital and you're like, hey, do you remember this? Do you remember? And nothing. It was like, I did
Yeah.
that or that happened. I didn't. Yeah. It was interesting journey.
You probably think, are you making this up, Mom?
Right. I didn't do that. No, that happened. That really happened. And so I'm just
Wow.
grateful. Amazing.
So now we've gotten past all those hurdles,
Oh,
and now you've started the radiation, right?
yeah, we're gonna start that. Yep, that will
Oh,
be
you're going to start
starting.
it. Okay.
Yes, that will be starting. Yeah, and so
Okay.
we're
So
almost
how
there.
how many weeks of the radiation will he have to take?
So it's 5 weeks, 5 weeks of it every day, and we are just thankfully that the oncologist said that it's just a small amount that is still left that they want to target with
Oh, good.
radiation. So, so we are, I want to say, we can see the other side of it. We can see
I'm
the
so
other
glad
side.
to hear that.
Yes.
How has he been handling all of this? Has he been in a good mind frame with it?
I think that there's challenges, it's a day by day. And that's literally how you have to take this. It's day by day, right? And I learned that I wish somebody had said it's every day is going to look different. You
Hmm.
you are not going to know what to expect, right? But I think you have to be able to just focus on the other side, on getting through it. And,
Hmm.
because it is different. Some days I think that, the spirits are high because there's encouragement there, right? And there's strength there. And then there are days where you're just not feeling it, you know? And that makes sense too.
Yeah,
So, it's just overall, I know that his hope and his faith is I'm healed. I am healed.
I
It's
love that.
just when you're in the moment though, emotions and he's young. He's young,
Hmm.
right?
Yes.
Still a teenager, still very much, growing and maturing.
Hmm.
And so it gets challenging, but overall, I know that his faith is carrying him. I know that he knows that God's got him.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah.
You know what? That can apply to everybody's life, no matter what we're going through. You know, cancer,
Hmm.
brain injuries, loss of a
Yes.
limb, whatever.
Yes.
You're going to have good days and you're going to have bad days.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think it's okay to have bad days. I just don't think it's okay to stay in that mindset.
Right. 100%. You're so right, Rob. Like it's okay, to not be okay. You just can't
Hmm.
stay that way. You cannot
Yeah.
stay. And so, so it's that faith that I was actually having this conversation with my daughter. I said, when you lose hope, the Bible says that your heart is sick. Hope deferred makes the heart sick, right? So we
Hmm.
can never lose hope in anything that we're going through. We can never, if anything is left, it has to be hope. And it has to be the hope that God knows what is happening and he knows he's going to get you through it. And so, that's what we have to do.
That would be a great title of the book. Just hope.
Yeah. It's hope. That is it. So
Yeah.
yeah. So we are almost there. That's what I like to say. We're almost there. Almost there.
Yeah. once you get to that finish line, which I'm praying is going to be very soon,
Yes.
what have you come back and give us that final? Hey, guess what? All clear. We're great. We're good to go.
Yeah, I would love to. I am looking forward to that. Let me tell you, I am
Yeah,
looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to what else comes out of this, right? Because what we go through is not just for us, it is for other people.
you have hit the nail on the head. And I feel like that there's always a life lesson that we can give back to others.
Yeah.
Just like when I started this podcast, I wasn't looking to start it. From the first day I hit my head, I was in so much pain, which I still am.
Hmm.
And I kept praying, give me a purpose for this pain. I didn't go, why me?
Right.
I kept saying, how can I use this to help to others?
Yeah. Yeah.
And it just kept hitting me in the face. And I complained to my counselor and I said, there's nobody out there doing what I want to see. And she goes, then you do it.
Right. That's it. You are
Duh.
the answer.
And asking, help use me and duh.
Right. Listen, but it's great because imagine how many people are impacted, right, by hearing these stories.
Yeah.
I think about parents. I would sit, Rob, I would sit in the lobby of the when he would get his chemo, right, or even in the hospital at CHOP, and just look at these parents with little kids and be like, I don't man, like I can't even imagine, right? I mean, not saying what I went through, yeah, it was hard, but at least my 16-year-old can express, right, when they're, when he's in pain or whatnot. And so for me, it's like I want to be able to encourage parents of younger kids or parents who are like, I don't know what to do, you know?
Yeah.
So that's everything we go through. It's always touch others.
It does, and it does help others to be able to go, okay, I can take a breath. I can take a sigh of relief and know that I'm not the first person going through this, and I'm certainly not going to be the last. But we can get over this hurdle.
Right. Right. That. And sometimes you just need that. Sometimes you just need to know you're not the only one.
Yeah.
That's it.
I wish I could remember what episode it was, and maybe if a listener's watching this, you could comment below if you remember. Because hello, brain injury, I can't remember what I ate for breakfast.
Yeah.
Um, but there was a podcast that I did where a lady was in the hospital with her husband. It wasn't looking very good for him, and a little girl. She was going into the trying to find the right word for it. Where you go in to pray,
The chapel?
the chapel. She was going in the chapel. A little girl was coming out, and as the little girl passed the lady, she goes, "God told me your husband's going to be fine."
Oh my goodness.
She's like, oh, "Well, thank you," and she's like, "And he was
Yeah. See?
out of the mouth of babes."
Out of the mouth of babes. And I love that. And I love how God can use anyone, just
Hmm.
literally anyone, that heart, that surrendered heart, he'll just use it. So that's
Yes.
awesome. Wow. I love that.
Yeah.
I love it.
Before we run out of time, I
Yes.
want to make sure we can get a plug in for your podcast.
Oh,
'Cause
yes.
you're not just a mother who's been through it this year's here with your son.
Yeah.
You also host a podcast. So please
Yeah.
tell the listeners about
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Beginning of this year, I launched my very first podcast by myself that I did by myself, but it's called the Day One Podcast. And the Day One podcast is all about women, kingdom entrepreneurs, women, it's faith based business or books if you're an author. And I love sharing stories. So my heart behind it was for women to come on and share the story of how they chose to step into day one of whatever God called them to do, and
Mm.
how, all the battles that they had to face. Because once you say yes, I'm sure this journey for you, Rob, has not been easy,
Right,
podcasting and sharing these stories, right? So
right.
it's once you say yes, you're going to face opposition, but how do
Hmm.
you press past that? And so the day one is meant to encourage other women to press past it and just continue to show up every day like it's day one.
That's awesome. And the title of the podcast is what?
The day one
The
podcast.
Day One. Okay. And you'll send me a link so I can put it in the description.
Yes, I can do that.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
make sure you go and subscribe to her podcast,
Thank
and
you.
I'm gonna go subscribe myself, and I'm gonna start listening to it as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Rob. It's been
Yeah.
amazing sharing. Thank you for
All
letting
right.
me share.
Yeah. Thank you for coming on and sharing your story. I know that it's scary to be vulnerable like that, but
Yeah.
you have a great testimony, and that's a great witness to others as well.
Yes, yes. I am super grateful. Super grateful. This is the first place actually that I shared this much about the journey. So, first podcast to do that.
Yeah. Well, as soon as we put a hook at the end of that, and we say next, then
Right.
we'll have you back so we can say, now listen to what my kids do.
Yeah. Yes, exactly. Thank
And who knows, God's going to use him for something.
you. Yes.
We don't know what that is, but there will be something that's going to be beautiful that's going to be coming out of this.
Yeah, I can't wait. I can't wait to tell you about it.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you so much. It's been a joy having you on today.
Thank you.
And guys, if you would read the description below, I'm going to have links to her podcast, to Giselle's podcast, and the day one.
Yes. Yes.
Wow. Sometimes I amaze myself. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please share this with someone who might need to hear this story. We never know who we can inspire and help along their journeys by just simply sharing the message. So until next week, this has been Life Rewired. Bye.
Just re-inspired. This is me, my life rewired.